has requested a post-Bible handout video. This one was very interesting. Here's my get-up. There's a thing in Psalms about God giving somebody a garment of praise, so it's my nickname for it, my garment of praise. It's very loud. The idea is for the cars to see it and not to hit me. Now, where I normally do my handout, it's an elevated median with grass in the middle. Nice and safe, considering there's 3 lanes going each way. And then I'm in the middle. So that's pretty safe. The first couple times I was very anxious. You may or may not know I had big time anxiety attacks. Anytime I get anywhere near traffic for several years after Ron's accident, I would just freeze up, and a lot of anxiety. So I have always had that with traffic, which is one thing I find funny about the handouts, is that I'm right in the middle of traffic, and God works with me on that. So I got up early, did my God time, gave myself a facial, took a shower, got dressed, and our ride was extremely late. The problem is we were scheduled to have like a 3 something pickup, 3 in the afternoon, between 3 and 4, sometime between 3 and 4. I think it was 3:08. Yeah, it was 3:08 pickup. So at 2:50, I'm sitting in the front room waiting for our ride, and he didn't come until like 4:15. The problem is he was doing a lot of workshop trips where a lot of people with developmental disabilities in Houston end up in a group home, and then from the group home they go to the workshop for about 6 hours a day, and then they turn around and they go back to the group home. So the group home doesn't have to babysit them, essentially, for say 8 hours a day. In fact, some of the group homes will even arrange it so that the client gets picked up at like 5 in the morning. The workshop doesn't even open until 9, and then they're just riding around for 4 hours, because the developmental disability, you can't leave them alone. Legally, it's a huge liability. You just can't leave them alone. They might wander off into traffic or whatever. So, there's some issues with that. But anyways, between 2 and 4, it is impossible to travel. And I didn't know Ron had to pick up at 3:02. He had made it a 4:15 appointment time, and that meant that we got picked up at 3, which meant that we really didn't get picked up until 4:15 almost, and Ron was pretty upset. But I figured we're gonna get to our location when God wants us to get to the location, and God's gonna bring people who need a Bible to that location, and we're gonna intersect. So I wasn't very anxious, but it did mean that our 5 o'clock pickup from the location to come home was not going to work. I mean, we got there at 10 minutes to 5. Now, I've done some handouts, and I would love to hand out 150 items in 10 minutes, but that has yet to happen. So I finally got to the location. I evicted Ron from the wheelchair, and I had 2 cases of Bibles and a giant sack of Bibles and one of those little backpacks, insulated backpacks with cold drinks in there, because I didn't want to get overheated. All the medication says, don't get overheated, you'll die. So, or the other medication, fatal seizure alert, all this stuff. The way I see it, I'd have been dead 6 years ago without the medication, so every day I get is just a gift. Anyways, so I Vic drawn, and the traffic is horrendous, but we get to the median, and this median has 5 lanes of traffic on either side, I counted, and it's not elevated, there's no curb, it's just painted lines on the street, which means that every now and then some idiot will get out of the 5 lanes of traffic and drive down the middle of the median and then go back into traffic. Highly illegal and very alarming for one Heather. It was quite disturbing for me to see these cars barreling towards us, and I'm thinking, are you texting? Do you know that there's somebody in front of you? Really, really glad I wore this thing, let me tell you. So I was a little anxious, but I figured God had us there for a reason. Both Ron and I felt like we should be there on this particular day at this particular time. So I did it. Got the bag, got the sign, walking up and down. Everybody wants to give me money. Now this is a much better part of town. Way more affluent. Their average house probably costs about 4 to 5 times what mine does, maybe even 6. Which, you know, doesn't matter. We're all equal in God's eyes. Really, you know, I'll hand out a Bible to anybody if they'll take it. If not, I'll make sad faces and move on to the next car. So I did a lot of that. And then people would like shout, come over here, and I would run over and I'd have a Bible in my hand. Here's some money. No, I don't want any money. Come on, take some money. No, I don't want money. I understand that. There's a learning process. People have to realize that I'm really not after money, and I can't accept money. If I accept money, then I'm begging, and if I'm begging, I can be shut down. So I'm not going to ever accept money. I ask them to pray for the recipients. So, yeah, that's what I do. And then I had a lot of people wave me over, and then I ran over, and they're like, oh, I have a Bible. I had gotten these booklets. They came in as evangelism pack. Josh McDowell booklets. He was a guy who got saved, and it was basically his testimony. You know, how he got saved and what he did afterwards. That's basically what testimony is. In about 50 pages in a little booklet, you know. So I ended up giving those out to the people who said they had a Bible, and they took them mostly. Somebody I think thought I was a cult, and like, no, I'm not taking any literature. I'm like, dude, I'm not weird, but they don't know. Well, I'm not into a cult. I'm just a born again. So they had the people who were like trying to give me money. Man, Ron and I could have gone to Applebee's for what they were trying to give me, which was sweet, but dumb. You don't ever give beggars money. You really feel sorry for them, give them some food, but don't ever give them money. It'll just go to the habit. In fact, there was a guy begging on the other corner, and he kept going and buying beers and drinking them, and then going back and begging some more. And you know, that's a weird thing. The homeless person under the overpass, they always want beer. They don't want the hard liquor. They're always drinking the beer. And trust me, I've hung out around a lot of them, evangelized a few. It's weird. I don't get that. I mean, if I were a drunk, I'd want the strong stuff, not beer. But that's all they want, beer all day long. So, anyways, so I was walking up and down. Every now and then I'd get a taker, and, you know, and another taker. And nobody wanted Spanish, which the Latinos were very adamant that they wanted English Bibles. I guess the Spanish Bible would be perceived as ghetto. I don't know. I don't care. Well, I know in my ghetto, I hand out a lot, and they're happy to get them. So, you know, just save them for my neighborhood. And so I was walking up and down, and then there was this one guy. I don't know what had happened in his life, but he looked like he had just been fired, his house had burned down, and his wife left him, all at the same time. And I said, I'd love to give you a Bible. He's like, okay. He took it. He was looking at it, so. Yeah. Now, if I get one person a Bible, that's a good hand. If I get one Bible into the right hands, that's all I need to do. I had 150 items. As it turns out, I handed out maybe, counting the ones I handed out this morning and yesterday, I handed out maybe 40 total, which for me is pretty low, but it's about quality. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. If I get it into the right hands, one pair of hands, it's ready. That's all that matters. That's how I think it should be. So then there were some fun ones. There was the carload of women arguing about what was the proper Bible translation for me to distribute on the corner. They asked if I had King James. I said no, I had New King James. Then they were arguing whether that was acceptable. I said, I've got the Holman, and held it up, and I think it's a prettier looking Bible. People were really happy to get the Holmans, by the way. But they said, well, here's some New King James. I handed them in the window. Oh, okay, Sometimes they won't reach out for it, but if I reach it to them, they'll take it. And that happened a few times. And I could tell they would just look at me and they would really be interested, looking at the sign. Then I had a lot of people shouting and waving at me for Bibles. I love that. And then the traffic was getting scarier and scarier, so Ron took my MP3 player and he was playing the music on his talking book machine. He can use it as an amplifier. He plugs it in the USB port and then the music comes out. So I was listening to that. Funny thing is, my gospel medal scared off the other beggar. I thought that was really funny. So it had a good side effect, and I was a little more relaxed. But it was a pretty tough crowd, and so I handed out what I could. And another time there was the carload of teenagers, and they were very interested. They kept looking and looking and looking. There's this one guy in the back in particular, and they had just pulled up and stopped at the light, and they were in like the fourth lane over. Normally I would not go out that far. That's like begging to become roadkill. But since they had just pulled up and they were first in line, basically, I got them in my hands, and then ran over with the free Bible sign and stuck them in the window and said, here you go. And, I offered them to the guy who was interested. He said, oh, okay. I said, yeah, you each get one. He said, oh, all right. And there was a lot of interest, and he was passing them around the car, so that was cool. And then there was a lady who stopped, and she said, do you have Spanish or English? I said, I have got both. And I gave her Spanish. She said, this is great for me, but can I get a couple of English for my kids? So I gave her 3 more for her kids. That was cool. And so yeah, it was a good handout. I mean, one person got a Bible. One ready person got a Bible. So it was a good handout. And that's my definition. Anyways, I was all set to turn you off, but I forgot. Ron said he didn't like the handout because there was a problem. There was a delicious steakhouse down the street, and it kept smelling the steak cooking, and he wanted it. And I think that's one reason people kept giving me money, because he looked so pitiful, smelling the steak. Smells good. So, yeah, that was it.